Hey, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Ask the Agent. I'm so excited for another Monday, another opportunity to be able to feel the other end of your question, right? I know sometimes when you're going to buy a home or you're going to sell, you have a lot of questions. You type that question in Google, so many answers populate, but those answers are in need of interpretation. Many times there are great questions, great answers out there to your questions on Google. But tonight, my panel is an expert in their area. You guys want to share this out to your pages. On tonight, I want to encourage comments. I want to encourage questions. Even if you don't have a question but have a comment, feel free to, type that in as well. I do have someone put numbers in. They're going to put a number next to your name. I'm going to give away a couple free dinners tonight. So we're just looking to have a blast on tonight as I bring on my guests. My name is Sharina George, and I am your host. I'm a Central Florida Realtor here. I help individuals to learn how investing in real estate can help to build long-term wealth. It's not going to get you wealthy or rich overnight, but it is long-term. So I'm excited to be on tonight. If you are out there and you can hear me okay, please go ahead and comment. All right, we are excited to be live tonight. I'm going to start to bring on my guests at this time. All right, so first we have Alexander Lexington. Hey, how are you tonight, Alex?
Hey, Sharina. Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. Just a little background. So, born and raised in South Florida. Bulk of my business is Florida. I work in mortgages on the broker side, but I'm also licensed in Tennessee, Virginia, California, and Wyoming.
Awesome, awesome. Excited to have you on, Alexander. Hey, Paul, how are you this evening?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Pretty good. We're going to bring on John at this time. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me, Sharina.
Woo, this is exciting. And then we have Lauren. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for having
Now,
me.
Lauren, I just have to say this. I think I'm gonna have my son like turn on a fan because I'm just loving the hair effect. Like I need that. I just need that over here.
It's like a commercial. It's like a commercial.
Yes. It's so
So
beautiful. Yes.
Beyonce does it best, but
Yeah, yes, yes.
our AC must be out in my office, so I'm like, somebody get me a fan because I might die.
Yeah, I gotta get mine turned off, make sure that sound. But welcome tonight, you guys. I see that you're logging on. Welcome tonight. So we are going to start giving a little bit of information about ourselves, you guys. You guys know I pride myself on really finding amazing individuals in their field who really know their stuff. They know what they're talking about, so you can really trust the advice and the information that's coming from your guests tonight. But in order for you to, of course, ask the appropriate questions, I know you want to know, hey, Sharina, who am I looking at tonight? You gave me the name, but I don't know what they do. So at this time, we're going to start with you, John. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I was telling everybody when we were hopping on before going live, I'm John Tankersley, and I've been selling insurance since 1994. My emphasis is property insurance. I engage with real estate and mortgage professionals on a daily basis so that I can be a resource for them for their clients' insurance needs. I'm a broker. I was a former agent owner and sold my practice. And then just recently, last August, about a year ago, got back into it. I represent multiple Florida carriers. It's my job to get you the real estate insurance, whether you're the real estate agent, whether you're on the buying or the listing side, an insurance solution for your closing. And
Awesome.
that's pretty much all I do.
All right, which is very important in
It's
the
been
real estate
interesting the last
community.
3 years.
They're very important. All right, Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself.
How fun. So a little bit about me. I am actually the CEO for J Park Coast to Coast. It's a real estate brokerage. We love on our agents, and it was to create a safe space for all agents. Um, and then I'm also a managing partner in REUP, which is to help sellers and buyers create some different opportunities than the traditional sale. And then I'm also a realtor and most importantly, a mom.
Awesome. Yes, that's our most important job, is really setting an example and setting up that, that legacy. So I appreciate you for being on tonight, Lauren. You guys that are tuning in, I do have a note taker this evening that is taking down your name as you comment. They're putting a number by your name. I'm going to give away a couple free dinners on this evening to a couple of people who stay tuned in. You've got to be on at 7 prior to us ending the show. Thank you for jumping on, Markeisha. I see you. All right, Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Sharina. My name is Paul. I own PJM Incorporated with my wife, Karen. I'm the author of the book, The Business of Home Inspection, which was endorsed by INTERNACHI, which is a national association for inspectors nationwide. And having done this, we really just bring about 20 years of experience as an individual to the table, but I got 6 guys. You multiply that times however long they've been with us, and we have a wealth of knowledge, and we take a lot of pride in what we do. And one of the reasons I'm happy to be here is because I know that you believe in the collective team effort when it comes to these transactions, and I think that that's a real important aspect of this.
Yes, teamwork
Yes.
truly does make the dream work. So I appreciate that, Paul. And Alexander, if you can give us that information one more time for those who are tuning in.
So yeah, I did jump the gun a little bit earlier. So again, Alexander Lexington. Work the mortgages on the broker side. So, yeah, I've been in the industry for 3+ years. Licensed in Florida, Tennessee, Virginia, Wyoming, and California.
Yes. Woo! Super mortgage broker that I am about to. Give me 1 second, you guys. A little bit of a stickler. I got to add that G to mortgage for Alexander's. One moment. Okay, perfect. All right, Lauren, you still with us? All right. And as you guys know out there on YouTube, we are live. So we are live right now. This is not pre recorded. Today is August the 7th, 2023, and we are live. So please excuse any glitches in the live. You know how that can be. So, Lauren, are you still with us? One moment. All right, just want to make sure. All right, we'll have her log off and log back on. All right, so we're real excited, you guys. Thank you so much to all of our live viewers. I see some comments coming in. Thank you, Markeisha, for tuning in. Gerald, thank you for tuning in as well. Well, as you guys know, I really look at Ask the Agent from a village mentality. In order to successfully purchase this asset, this home, land, or commercial product, there are so many different individuals that are set forth to help you, from the realtor, from photography, drone footage, from the person who's a title, mortgage, insurance, inspection. So on Monday evenings from 6 to 7 is my opportunity to basically invite some of those villagers on to be able to talk about what to expect if you're buying, if you're selling, if you're looking to invest in real estate. So on Mondays, when we are here on the program, for you guys who might be on for the first time, from 6 to 7 is just to give you more advice and as much information as possible. It can be a daunting task, right? Putting your life savings into this asset. And you may have some very well needed questions. You need some answers to your questions. You've typed that in Google, but we're here today to really be your one-on-one answer. So if you have a question tonight, please ask it. There is no silly question. There is no, should I ask this? Am I going to look foolish? We really want to hear from you tonight so that we can help you. So we're going to start off with a couple of topics that we've already kind of pre-populated, but we're looking forward to your questions. So we're going to get right in there with inspections. Paul, what is covered in a general inspection, or your most ordered inspection? What's included in that?
There's different types of inspections. So the one that we're going to cover is the pre-purchase inspection, which is the one that you order when you're about to purchase a property to see if that property meets your needs and your approval. And what's included in that is pretty much everything in a general scope that I think the person who orders the inspection would expect. the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, the air conditioning, the structure, the attic, perhaps the crawl space, whatever the case may be. It's a general scope. It's a non-invasive visual inspection of a premises for sale. So we're able to observe and report, identify defects. But when we identify something, people have to realize that because the home is owned by somebody else, you can't show up at the front door with a sledgehammer and tools that are indicative of you destroying their property. So there's a limitation with that inspection. So it's important to realize that. Perception with the home inspection is often disconnected from reality. In other words, the state says an inspection is XYZ, but the consumer's expectations of what an inspection is a completely different animal. So the best thing you could do really is tune into a show like this to ask questions of somebody experienced so they can help guide you through that. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of confusion with inspections. What's included, what's not included, what are the limitations, what is it exactly that an inspector can tell you, and what can't they tell you? And these are all, I think, very important questions to ask and to have answered if you're especially a first-time home buyer who's never been through this, or perhaps a new investor who doesn't have a team yet. So experienced people like the people on this panel would probably be such a huge asset in that community that you're talking about to help get deals done, or maybe in the wrong situation, maybe the deal doesn't get done, but for the right reason.
Well, I'm glad we started with you first, Paul, because many times when a person is going to buy a home after that offer is accepted and the process gets started, many times that inspection is going to either make or break this. This is going to cause it to go forward or to really come to a halt. And I know that inspections really work close to a mortgage broker. So after an inspection is complete, Paul and Alexander, you get that inspection, you're working with the buyer, you're working with that loan. What are some things that you're looking for as the mortgage broker who's lending for this asset? What are some things from inspection that can either make or break this, or is there any?
So it's not necessarily from the mortgage side. That would be more on the insurance side. So the insurance would have to make sure that the report comes back clean and that, there's no fixes that need to be done. On the lending side, we're more concerned with the appraisal. As long as the appraisal comes back as is at price, generally we're happy. But we also need insurance to be bound. So that is a huge thing because without insurance, we cannot close.
That's good. And that takes us to you, John. So after that inspection is complete and you receive that, John, tell us a little bit about that process.
So, and I apologize, right when you said no background noise, we have a 3-year-old, so it's dinner time. So I'm going to wait for mom to scoop her up and then I'll answer your question. So I really apologize, gang.
Well, it's okay, John.
Sharina,
It's all right.
is it okay if I just, while we're waiting for John because of his environment, and I know that's difficult, but this applies to the insurance end, to elaborate further, and the real estate end too, because the realtors and the inspectors work really close together, particularly with concerns about insurance. So sometimes what happens is we may find something that may not be necessarily a deficiency as an inspection, but we know might hang up the insurance process. And for example, Lauren, what I'm talking about is maybe we have a tile roof, for example, that is in great shape, hasn't leaked, but the house was built in 96 and nothing has ever been done with the roof. So obviously the insurance company is looking at that as a liability, whereas the inspector is saying, well, there's no evidence of a problem. There's no problem up above. There's no problem in the attic. So from our standpoint, things look good. But from the insurance standpoint, we have to look at the age of the roof and what the policy of that particular company might be. And I was hoping that maybe for both myself and Lauren, that John could enlighten us a little bit more on that, because I think it would be helpful.
For sure. For sure. And Lauren, while we wait on John, I know that you're an investor yourself and you work with other investors. I know that sometimes they're buying, let's say, a property to fix and flip. So this property does have a lot of things going on with it during the actual purchase. How does that work with the property not quite being repaired yet on that inspection side?
So I think that's really kind of, what the buyer's goal is. So if I'm buying as an investor, and I'm doing like a fix and flip, I really don't care too much, right, about what is wrong with the home. But it's important for me to know what's wrong so that I actually have a thorough and accurate budget. So, I mean, for myself, I always say get an inspection. I don't care if it's new construction. I don't care if it's a fix and flip. Get an inspection so you know what is wrong and what you need to get, and kind of go accordingly. So for myself, it really, I want to know what's wrong with the home, but more so that I can actually, your budget's everything on a fix and flip. And so it can completely throw your whole, this is a great investment to, okay, now this is an expense. And so that's personally why I believe wholeheartedly in getting inspections, and the importance of them. But I think I'm looking for like really the big ticket items are, your AC and anything structural and the roof. I spoke to an agent today and they're like, I don't know what to do. It's $27,000 for this roof. And I'm like, so it's just really kind of knowing, and that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to be transparent. I want to know what I'm looking at when it comes to that property. So that's why I believe in home inspections.
Yeah, that's good. And Alexander, while we bring John back on, I know sometimes individuals are being approved for the fix and flips. Of course, they haven't been renovated yet. How much, again, will that inspection? I know you don't deal with it too closely. Do you take into account for if this investor is going the loan route? They're putting 50% down. They want to loan the other 50%, but this property is in need of massive repair. Can you still lend on it?
Yeah, so generally it all depends, the more rural you get, the less taste for lenders to have an appetite for fix and flips. If it's a more metro area, more populated area, fix and flips are usually easier to come by. A fix and flip loan is usually going to be a shorter term, 12 to 24 months, and you're going to need generally some kind of experience within real estate investing, a contractor, a supply of all the renovations that you're going to be doing for the project. But yeah, that's pretty much the main things we look for, and then obviously credit and assets, and all that kind of stuff as a regular loan.
Awesome. All right, John, go ahead and jump in.
All right, sorry for the drama and the background noise. I really apologize, gang. So with respect to, and I think when I had to drop out for a minute, Alexander was talking about the role of the inspection as it plays to property insurance, whether it's home insurance or it's property insurance for investors that are going to have tenants in the policy, or folks that are going to buy the house, renovate it, and get it rented or flip it. The big thing for us now is property insurance is, and it's the worst I've ever seen it from a private market perspective in the 29 years that I've been selling insurance. The whole gang can weigh in on this, but I think what is super important for you as a real estate agent is if the home is 2008 and older, get that 4-point, get that wind mitigation inspection on every house that's where the inventory where it's 2008 and older, because that greatly increases the availability and the affordability of getting home insurance. And the other thing I would share with you is that when we get the inspections, the 4-point and the wind mitigation, do not send the insurance people the full inspection, because that actually muddies the water and makes it worse. And Paul knows what I'm talking about. Insurance is a process now. It takes about 2 to 3 days to get a quote, and it takes about 1 to 2 days to get a binder. So in the span of your closing cycle, that's a full business week. You as a real estate professional, you need to be extremely proactive. The nanosecond you enter into the inspection period on whether you're on the buying or the listing side, telling the client, telling the buyer, hey, look, we got to get insurance. If you think you're going to pick up insurance the week of or the week before closing, unless it's new construction, that closing is not going to happen on time. So the inspections that's the first step in the insurance journey.
So John, to put a part B to that, when a person is buying a home cash, do they need to have insurance on that as well for all of our viewers who are listening?
Now, we live on a sponge surrounded by bathwater on 3 sides that has a 6-month hurricane season. So I would say it would be crazy to have a property that you did not have property insurance on, particularly if it's coastal. But no, if Alexander's not doing the loan or there's not a lender in there, then they do not need to purchase an insurance. And also,
Insurance. What about
go ahead.
Oh, excuse me, John. Sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
John, Paul? What about inspections? Is that needed if one of our viewers are thinking about purchasing their investment property cash?
I have to go with Lauren on this. I mean, most investors that I've worked with over my career, they don't necessarily need to have a concern about what they're going to haggle over for the most part with the other side. They have a team, they have a budget, and they need to meet that budget. They need to know what's wrong with the property. So from that standpoint, I agree with Lauren, and I think that an inspection is good for an investor. I've worked with a lot of investors over the years, and the most important thing for an investor is that they don't hire a newly licensed inspector, because most of these guys that are newly licensed inspectors, I know they're trying to do the right thing, but when you're dealing with an investor, these are very specific minded people. They need to know specific information, and it has to be brought to them by someone with experience in a specific way. So that's what's important to them. And to go back to what John was saying, I really do think it would be crazy not to have insurance, no matter what you are, cash buyer or otherwise. But I do have a question for John, if it's okay, because this is something that I think a lot of inspectors get hung up on, and it does affect the buyers and the realtors, because I don't think that we all know what the answer is. Here's the question: when we do the original inspection and we find problems, there are some things that need to be repaired.
Mhm.
I've tried to do a 4-point on the inspection information I had from day one, but then things changed, repairs were made. And for the life of me, I can't figure out yet what the preferred method is. Do we have to return to the property to do a whole new one? Or will we be willing to expect receipts and photos and an updated report, basically with an addendum saying these are the updates, here they are? And I don't know the right answer for this, but I do think it's important for agents and buyers alike, as well as inspectors, because we want to get it right. But we also have a license like you guys do, and we don't want to put that on the line either.
Yeah. So that's a great question.
Go ahead.
And the answer is both. It depends on the carrier that we're placing the insurance with. We got some carriers that say, let's just say, water heater. Okay, needed a new water heater. They say, screenshot us a picture of the water heater and where it's installed and the updated 4-point, and we're good to go. And then we have others that say, no, we need the inspector to go back out and take their own photos. We try to use the path of least resistance as much as we can. But right now, it's kind of a hybrid of both. And I saw where Greg George had a question. Sharina, do you want me to address that?
Yes.
Okay.
In just a moment.
Sure.
Yep. Yep. Thank you so much for your question, Greg. Along with what you guys just said, Lauren, with working with investors, do you find that most of them do opt in for an inspection, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I love negotiating, right? Because aside from being an investor, I am a real estate agent. And so I personally love negotiating. And yeah, I would say my investors do get a home inspection, and we're just very transparent. I think communication in any real estate transaction is key. So we always tell our inspector, like, listen, this is an investor. They're going to do X, Y, Z. So you don't need to stress that too much, but see if you find anything that wasn't disclosed to us, or can you find something else? Because we really use it as like a negotiation tool, right? Like, is there any other money? Because as investors, that's what the goal is, to shave as much as you can in the purchase. So the inspections can be a tool. And so, yeah, our investors 100% do use inspectors, and we just communicate that with the inspector. This is, an investment home. And our our inspectors are like partners. I look at all of our lenders, our inspectors, our insurance reps. Everybody should be a partner in that transaction to get you to the closing table. And so I will say inspectors play a key part in that. So yes, my investors do usually, I would say probably more than 3 out of 4 will get a home inspection with their transaction.
And I think that's really good as well. I was recently looking for a property. I actually work with investors here in Central Florida to find a property, and there was a specific property in Orlando that did not want us to do an inspection. So that caused me to kind of investigate it a little further. Like, why would you not want, my buyer to get an inspection? And I guess this 4-unit property is zoned as single, on the tax record, but then has 2 meters, and it just looks like a whole lot of undercover type stuff going on that's not legit. And so I love what you're saying, Lauren, with the fact that you definitely advise them, hey, let's get an inspection. Let's make sure if this is a triplex, it actually is registered that way. If this is zoned for Airbnb, because that's what you want to do with the property, it's actually zoned that way. You're in a community or a city that allows that. So that's really great due diligence on your end to, to really encourage that. And so that really stood out to me about those inspections, just making sure we get those done. So Greg had a question for you, John.
Yep.
He's a contractor looking to fix and flip.
Yep.
Is there a short-term insurance product for him?
There is. We write a policy. It's through an excess and surplus lines carrier, anywhere from 3 months to 12 months in length. So if there's a lender involved and they want to see 12 months of continuous hazard insurance, and Alexander can weigh in on that if he wants, we can do that. The policy covers the structure, premises liability, and then the cost of the renovations, and it's anywhere from 3 to 12 months in length. And it's kind of like a mini builder's risk policy, but it's designed for folks who are buying houses and gutting them or doing major renovations and then renting them or selling them. So the caveat, Greg, is this: there's a 25% minimum earned premium, meaning the company's going to keep 25% of the premium no matter how long you have it. And if it's short term, 3 months, 6 months, rather than a year, sometimes the lender won't accept that as acceptable hazard insurance. But we provide those products all the time for investor clients.
You have any thoughts to add to that, Alexander?
No, John pretty much nailed everything on the head.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, John. That was nice and thorough. Appreciate you on tonight. All right, we do have another question, and I believe we'll start with you, Lauren. What do I need to be looking for when I'm shopping for a fix and flip?
Okay. So I believe in finding an agent that is investor friendly, that knows what they're doing. Make sure love our agents, but they all have like a specialty, right? So some do land, some are great in different areas. So I say find one that actually is investor friendly and have them help you. But I would say area is a big one. Get with an agent so they can do a thorough analysis, but you want to see what your inventory is in those areas is a big one for me. And then really it's just numbers. What is the as is that you can purchase it for? What is going to be that after repair value? And what kind of budget are you really sitting on? So to make sure that it actually can be fix and flip. But I would say get with an agent and utilize them and have them help you with that transaction. And if you are an agent, find a brokerage that encourages you to invest, or find a mentor that can help you with that.
Yes, I really love that, Lauren, because we do all work together, and having that real estate agent that's well versed in investment property, I think is key too, because if we're constantly on a daily basis running numbers, if you want to Airbnb this is what it looks like for the year. If you want to fix and flip, this is what it looks like. I think with having that repetitive experience as agents like ourselves that are consistently working with investors, I think it's important to try to find someone who has some experience in that, so that can be a lot better for you, in your search. Because some individuals, if you say, hey, I want an Airbnb in Orlando and this is my price range, they find the property. If they don't do proper zoning, proper research on the property, you'll close. It's your home. Oh, this is an area that I can't Airbnb in. Wow, why didn't my realtor or someone, no one told me this? But inspection is not looking at Airbnb. Insurance is not looking at Airbnb. But us real estate agents, if we knew that that was your intent for buying this investment, we need to make sure that we're even looking a bit deeper into zoning to make sure that that's allowed. Because I know some areas don't allow you to have Airbnb for the full property. You can live in it as a primary residence and rent out rooms, but for some areas, you can't actually use the entire house. And so, did you want to chime in, John?
I did. I just wanted to piggyback real quick. So we have no problem writing insurance on properties that are tenant occupied. However, when it comes to Airbnb and VRBO or short-term rentals, please let us know, because that does affect the rate and the availability for carriers than someone who's got like a 7-month or a 12-month lease for a portfolio of rental properties. It does make a difference. We do it. It's not a big deal, but we don't want people to have the wrong type of tenant occupancy listed on their policy.
So you do write that up. So that's good to
We
know
do.
as well.
Yep, we take them.
So right there. So when they're purchasing the property, John, if they were purchasing it for a primary residence, but then, they need to move away and they want to turn it into
Yeah.
an actual rental, will the insurance that they're carrying in the purchase still cover them, even though they're, seeing
No.
about their mom in Washington and how will the insurance company know if the primary residence if the primary resident is no longer there and someone's renting? Is that
So they got to call their
how's that work?
they got to call their agent or their company and tell them, hey, look, it's no longer primary for us. We're going to rent it out, or it's going to be seasonal or vacant. Some home insurance companies won't let you have a vacant policy, but we sell policies for vacant occupancy. Or if they're going to rent it out, basically, if they have regular home insurance, we switch it to what's called a landlord policy, which is that's slang for policy for properties that are tenant occupied, and it's up to the homeowner, the property owner, to notify the insurance company.
And so sometimes they do, and
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So we always try to jog their memories when we can.
Well, I appreciate that. All right, on to you, Alexander. With thinking about loans, we have some individuals out there. You're looking to buy a property. Maybe you are in the gig economy. Maybe you work for DoorDash. Maybe you work for yourself and you don't get an actual W-2, but you're a 1099. Talk to us about the different loan products that you offer, for everyone to be approved.
So yeah, that's something that I love to talk about. Especially on the broker side, I have access to so many different products. For people that have unconventional income, not your regular ordinary salary W-2, I have a couple products that suit them the best. Bank statement, where we're looking at your deposits. There's still going to be DTI involved, but it's different. We can either take 12 months or 24 months of your bank statements and basically look at the deposits, and then depending on the industry you're in, do an expense factor and then calculate it that way. And then I also have a program that is a no income verification. It's not 2008, no loan, no nothing, no DTI, no nothing, not like that. It's not going to blow up the economy. So you have to have a good credit score. We're looking at 700 plus to qualify for 20% down. If your score is 640, 660, you're going to be looking at 35% down, which, it's quite substantial. So you have to have skin in the game. But at that point, we don't look at the income. We don't look at the DTI. We do look at reserves. You have to have 12 to 18 months that shows that you can afford the mortgage for that amount of time. And both of these programs are great, if you don't have a salary or W-2. And then for investors, I really like the DSCR program. So that basically stands for debt service coverage ratio, which is just a fancy way to say that, the debt is serviced. So as long as the rent that the property is collecting is equal to the monthly mortgage payment 1-to-1, that's usually what we're looking for. And then for that program, generally we are looking at 20% down and also better credit on that 20% down. Now, if you have 600s, obviously down payment's going to go up. But those are some of the cool niche products that I have access to.
Yes, and I'm really grateful that you have so many that you offer, because with some individuals not having the best of credit, but really trying to kind of get and jump into investing. I love how Trishelle, she was on the show, And she said one of the greatest barriers to a lot of investors kind of jumping in is entry, not really having the credit where they want it to be, not really having the down payment. So I love the fact that you have those different products, that can fit different individuals. My belief is that investing in real estate is not a short game, but a really long game to really build that wealth. And I think that, in doing research and finding that over 90% of millionaires have gotten that way through real estate, I believe it has a proven track record to it. I want to talk about investing for just a moment. What is your experience, Paul, with investing? Are you an investor?
I am. I actually am an investor since about 1998. My wife and I have accumulated a handful of properties naturally that we're building, like you said, long-term game towards retirement. But like Lauren had said earlier about the value of having these properties inspected, and I want to bring John in on this as well, because I just had something happen with one of our investors who is a realtor, and I've known her for probably about 8 or 10 years. There was a property purchased in 2017, and it wasn't inspected because she has good knowledge. She brought her people in, they did some remodeling, no issues. Now she had contacted me for a 4-point report for this particular property built in 1971. And wouldn't you know it, we have the aluminum single strand wiring in there with no repair, no servicing. So this did not get her in 2017, but now Citizens does not insure aluminum single strand wiring, period, from what I understand. So now here is the situation with this investor, and this is why as investors, we can all relate to this. This is uncomfortable. She's got tenants in there. It's very hard for an electrician to have access to the switches, the outlets, and everything they need to get to be able to make these repairs. So the tenants have to be inconvenienced. Someone has to go in there and now make this aluminum wiring repair. And this is why, as an investor, I really strongly believe, just like Lauren says, she has a great team of people. And I think we all are part of or have a great team of people. And that's how you find this out on the front end. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens is on the back end, for the inspection, like as an investor, I could tell you that I would look at a property and I would be able to tell you, probably without even going there, what we should be looking for with a simple phone call. By the way, that's available to everyone on the panel and anyone you know. I'm very flexible that way. You're at a property, you're looking at something, you have a question. I know most neighborhoods in Central Florida, and I can kind of give you a heads up on that. But the most important thing now is, like, if you're involved in a situation like that, how do you navigate forward? And that's the most important thing more than ever. It has more to do with insurance than inspection, because if you're an investor and you got a $10,000 budget, well, you got a 1,000 square foot house, you're like, okay, I'm just going to rewire it or do whatever I want to do with it. But if you're not prepared for that, it could be an enormous setback in your plans.
So can I add to that, Paul?
Sure.
Okay, so multi-strand, we have a market. Single strand has to have illumicons before closing, before an insurance policy can be put in place.
Even Citizens, right?
Even Citizens.
Wow, well, that's a straightforward answer. John, you hit it on the head. I do have
But
a question.
we do have markets for multi-strand where it can be done after closing. But yes, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good.
Does that help you, Paul?
That's a good. Actually, he brings up a really interesting topic, multi-strand. Now, here's the thing: as an inspector, as someone with years of experience, I could tell you there is nothing wrong with aluminum multi-strand wiring. From a standpoint, if I inspect a home, I can guarantee you that 95% or better of the main wiring coming into the home is aluminum multi-strand. So is a lot of the other 220 breakers that are connected to, like AC, maybe the range or something. So that to me is like a puzzling thing with insurance. I don't understand that at all, but it's a reality that John is bringing to the table, and people should pay attention to it, because it can actually throw a curveball in a transaction. Because here's something that hasn't happened very often, but it does happen. We do the 4-point reports and we have to send photos. They are required. So someone who is looking at those photos, this happened to me about maybe 3 months ago, will see what they consider a double tapped breaker, right? But it was a house built in 2000, and they often will double tap the main lugs with a surge suppressor, which is completely acceptable, but not to the insurance company. So there's a couple of things that we have to be real clear with buyers, realtors alike when it comes to discussing this. Am I calling it a defect because it's a double tap breaker in that situation? No way, because it's perfectly fine. But will your insurance company have a problem based on their policy with it? And the answer might be yes. So it creates a little bit of a curveball for the people involved in the transaction. The realtor wants to know why the insurance is saying the inspector missed something. The buyer wants to know why the inspector missed something. And the inspector wants to know why everyone doesn't understand that this isn't wrong. And the insurance company has their own policy, which is why they're calling it out. Nothing to do with right or wrong. It's policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and that sounds like, having a close relationship with the village to be able to, take those case by case basis and, what are your thoughts on this, John? And then maybe even another insurance, agency may have something different to say, depending on the way that, they run their company. So really good information, Paul. I'm going to ask our next question here, you guys. I know some of us have been in the industry for years. My husband has been on the side of fixing investment properties for investors, and I've recently come to the side of being able to assist in the buying and selling of the purchases. But what are some things that you guys know now that you wish you knew when you first got started? Let's start with you, Alexander.
Oh man, the industry is
A
always
few
changing.
things, a
That
few things.
I learned something new every day. And the thing is especially in real estate, you got to keep up. If you don't have an open mind, you're not going to make it, because guidelines change in mortgages. The real estate market is constantly changing. We're constantly flipping on, buyer's market, seller market. So I think just keeping an open mind is the biggest thing in this industry.
Keeping an open mind. That's good. That's good. All right, we'll just bring in John. Okay. Yeah, keeping an open mind. I think that that's really good, Alexander, because you do, like, every person, every client is going to be different, every situation, every home. Even though this asset has been bought and sold multiple times,
Correct.
nothing's the same about it. And though you've lent to several people, and on paper, this person might very well look like the last person, something's different. And so I think keeping that open mind, and I love when I've sent a couple people to you, Alexander, just your spirit of like, hey, let's try every route possible to get this person approved. I want to see them become a homeowner or investor, whatever they're looking to do. So I really love your zeal and being tenacious about helping individuals, not based on anything other than wanting to help them go further into home ownership or their investment journey. So I think that's really good. What about you, Paul? What are some things that you know now that you wish you knew when you first got started?
Well, I think one of the topics that I had covered in teaching and in my book was using empathy to improve your skills as a professional. And what I mean by that is what you just said about the same transaction maybe being different for one reason or another. It actually is different a lot of the times, not because of the transaction necessarily, but because of the person that you're working with. And if I had known how to read people better when I started way back in 2004, I'd probably be in all 50 states with 1,000 different inspection companies, but I didn't learn that till later on in my career. And the reality is that that's the truth. If you're presenting a property to a nurse, whether you're a real estate agent or you're dealing with them on the insurance or lending side, you have to understand what's important to that nurse or to that person. And their personality style is going to dictate how you communicate what you have found as a professional in your work. It's very different than an engineer or an architect. I can tell you, I mean, the communication between an investor, an engineer, and an architect is not the same as a teacher or a nurse or an artist. They're all different people. So if you can just kind of do your skill set to the best of your ability based on your years of experience, I would say that reading people is probably the most important part of how you go ahead and convey the results of what you've discovered, because that really, at the end of the day, will matter. I mean, because you have to go based on what's important to them when all is said and done.
Yes, I like that as well. Like going with the flow, I remember I was looking at a training, and the person was basically talking about in their particular career learning how to match the volume and kind of the flow. If a person's really excited, kind of matching that energy. If a person just, had a loved one pass away, and they moved here to be with their children and they're buying a home, that's going to be a totally different situation because of what that person's going through. So I can really appreciate that, Paul, that when you're dealing with each individual, no one is alike, but really catering your services, continuing to deliver them with excellence, but according to whom you're working with, I think it's really, really important. So that's awesome that that you learned that, and I know we're always yet continuing to learn that, on a daily basis. What about you, Lauren? What are some things now? You've worked with some investors, you're an investor yourself. What are some things like, okay, a few years ago I wish I would have known? What would you have applied years ago that you know now?
So I think one of the biggest ones right now that I'm currently like realizing, and I've got two, but one of them is like your tribe matters, and the people that you surround yourself with matters. And so recently I'm learning that networking is huge. So, I saw some of the questions on like, what am I looking for the flips, and what am I looking for this? And I think it's really just kind of networking with like-minded individuals and realizing that real estate is not a one-man sport, right? It's a team sport. And so, like you guys said, there's not, I've been doing this for a long time, and I can't sit here and say that there's ever been two transactions that were identical. And so I think it's really important on creating that team from your, inspections to your insurance to all of those guys. And I think it's really cool what Paul said, because I personally I know a couple of inspectors and contractors that I work with that, you said that you walked through that home and they weren't allowing inspections, but it was an easy FaceTime video for us. And we were quickly able to say like, oh, this is the budget you're looking roughly around. And so I think networking and really kind of building up your team and realizing that this is not a single man sport is really, really important.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a single man sport, not by any means. And even though I'm as new as I am, I got a couple of pieces of really good information. I'm going to share those in just a moment. John, what about you? You've been in the industry for some years now. What are some things that you wish you would have known?
Oh gosh, I mean, great answers from the panel. I think for me, my advice or feedback to real estate agent, whether especially if they're relatively new, is usually if you are working with someone and you're constantly having to jump and it's a real quick, hey, hurry up, I got to have this, blah blah blah. It really, a lot of times it doesn't work out. So planning on who you're networking with, planning on who you're working with is super important. I work with thousands of real estate agents and mortgage professionals across the state. I belong to many real estate boards and professional organizations. We just got done being at the Florida Association of Mortgage Professionals State Convention last week. And what I've learned is almost exactly what they were saying is Lauren was saying, get around like-minded people, get around people that you're comfortable around, and people that you can work with and lock arms with and get to the closing table.
Yeah, that village, and that kind of goes into some advice that I got going from, being with my husband on some of the sites, seeing some of the properties. I mean, I think it was really amazing when we would see what this investor bought the property for and then what they sold it for after my husband was done. I don't know why we didn't become investors like years ago, because I'd be retired at the age of 40. I'll be 40 this year, and this would be my retirement year. If we had done what some of those investors were doing over the past 20 years of working with them. But everyone has a time and a purpose. But a piece of advice that I had received as an agent is, hey, Sharina, if you want to grow in real estate, if you want to grow as an agent, you're going to have to build your team. Of course, initially, of course, behind the scenes chat, you guys, that just got my attention a little bit. But I know that you're doing this. Of course, get the experience under your belt. Know what's in contracts. Know the whole process of doing what you're doing. But if you really want to grow as an agent, Sharina, you can't do this alone. You need a closing, a transaction coordinator. Maybe you have, 2 to 3 agents that don't mind doing your showings for you. Maybe eventually, after a couple years, become an associate broker. This person is specifically, your buyer's agent. This person is secretary. So really talking about stretching beyond yourself, and in order to grow your business, because you don't work for the broker, you work for yourself, even though you're on a team with the broker. Sharina, go ahead and put these things in place, when you feel it's time to really be able to grow your business, because some of the agents that have grown tremendously are still doing a lot of the work themselves. And I think that if they had 3 to 4 people teamed up with them, they'd be leaps and bounds further. Would you agree, Lauren? Just really, as you begin to grow, as you begin to take on more, you become that spearhead header, and you delegate tasks where individuals have strength so that your business can continue to grow.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's important too, right? Finding out what people's strengths are, and then also what makes them get up in the morning and jump out of that bed. So, it's the strengths and then what they also enjoy doing. And so I think that's huge. Yes.
What were you
Trina,
gonna
can I
say,
add one
John?
thing?
What were you gonna say, John?
If you're in real estate and you're in Florida, I think it's wonderful. You're in one of the best places in the world to sell real estate. For the next 10 years, 250,000 people a year are going to move to Florida. 17% are going to try to locate around the I-4 corridor. We're in the right business, gang. Just get with the right people. Things are never as bad as people seem to think they are sometimes, and they're never as great as they are sometimes. This is my third apocalypse selling insurance in 29 years. It'll get better. It all evens out. So hang in there.
Hang in there. And I heard a really great piece of advice, you guys out there. Of course, research, for yourself as well. We are giving you some suggestions, some advice, and some of our experience. But when everyone is screaming, don't buy, crash, and all of this, buy as much land as you can, buy as many quadplexes and apartment buildings, and I mean, buy
Yes.
as much as you can. When they are screaming, don't buy, go the counter. That's something I learned when me and my husband was somewhat trying to learn what trading was. If anyone has ever traded, it is one of the most difficult things that you can ever do, and the market only goes up or down. So I don't know why it's so difficult, but if you're ever trading, when they say buy, that's the time to sell. So for you guys who are out there who are looking to jump into real estate investing, now is an amazing time, you guys. It really is, especially in Polk County. Lakeland is a growing upcoming area. Davenport, oh my gosh, so much new construction, new gas stations, new plazas.
Hey,
And believe me, if those individuals are going to put millions and millions of dollars into infrastructure, you should believe and trust that they've done their due diligence, that the area is coming up. So to purchase in an area that's coming up now is only going to give you an even faster appreciation. So from Winter Haven to Bartow to just Polk County as a whole is just really growing. If you guys are looking for a great investment opportunity, even your Kissimmee. I know Orlando. Is Orlando getting pretty full down there, Lauren?
There's some pockets. There's some pockets.
I know they're filling up.
not in Winter Park. We're pretty full.
They're filling up. All right. So as we close up, I will have my note taker write down everyone's name, and then I'm going to choose a random number, and we'll give away a couple dinners. But in closing, I always like to give us just about a minute or two to just say our reason why, like why we do what we do. When I was younger, you guys, I knew nothing about purchasing a home, let alone investing. We lived in the apartment building. I never even thought we could own an apartment building. I thought it was something that companies did, that organizations did. I wasn't exposed to individual investing. And so when I became an adult and my husband was working with all of these investors, listen, it just really opened my eyes that, in order for me to have the life that I want to have, because everybody has a different plan, for me to be able to do philanthropy work, to travel to Africa, for me to be able to be free to live out my purpose, which is encouraging others and sowing good seeds into other people's lives. I knew that I would need to have finances in place because we aren't going to live off of what we give, right? We got to have something coming in order to give out. And so investing is definitely an opportunity for us to be able to establish that long term wealth. And in turn, we've decided not to just do it for ourselves, but to teach others and to help others. So when I'm sitting down talking with a person who's very young, looking for a single family, when I start talking about the duplex and the power of this rental income paying your mortgage, they're like, wow, like no one who's between the age of 18 and 24, with, no children, no family, should be buying a single family home. I'm like, get into a duplex, allow the right side to be able to cover that monthly mortgage. You're good. They're paying down, your principal inside of there. So why not go that route if you're living by yourself anywhere? Like, wow. Well, you have a point, Sharina. So I'm really trying to help others to be able to see the power in being able to acquire as much investment as possible. And of course, to be good stewards over that investment. And so my reason why is to help individuals to kind of who've never thought or never saw themselves as investors. I really break it down into childlike terms to help them to see the power of investing. What's your reason why, Alexander?
So, like you mentioned earlier, I just love helping people. Like I love exploring every avenue to make it happen. And it might not be overnight. It might not be a month. There's people that I work with for months on end. If we got to work on credit, listen, let's work on credit. Let's keep at it until we're able to get to that goal and make that purchase. That first purchase is going to be the toughest one, generally speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Paul, what's your reason why?
I think it's probably numerous reasons why, but I think I was very fortunate when I was younger to have the people in my family, particularly my wife's dad, who was an entrepreneur, that showed me there are avenues that you can open up in your mind to look ahead that I never knew existed. So for some people, it's having someone like that in their life to try and help them figure it out. And if they don't have those people in their lives, then that's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to have I have a teaching spirit, teaching spirit, and I want to share what I know with other people so they may have an opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise. Because not everybody in their lives has that influence. Some people never get exposed to someone who is fearless, that's willing to take on an investment because they don't know that with the risk comes reward. All they know is the fear. So you've got to teach people the avenue forward and like what the reward might be if they're willing to, like what Alexander was saying about teaching about credit and stuff like that. Maybe you get them squared away in their own finances and you create a path forward. But I think everyone on this panel is very similar. I mean, we've been in business a long time. We know our trades very well, but we put people first. We recognize where there's an opportunity to teach individuals, and that's where we excel. And that's why I do this.
Awesome. What's your reason why, Lauren?
So my initial reason why in getting into real estate and investing was really to break generational curses, right? Like I wanted to be different for my kids. And being a single mom, I thought that was a great idea. And then quickly, over time, I realized it was not me that I was in real estate for, and it was serving others. And so for me, my big thing is like changing lives one door at a time. And it's giving back to our local community, which doesn't always look as like a monetary donation, right? So for me, when I do a flip, nothing is more rewarding than being able to hire a bunch of small businesses, when you're dealing with the contractors and the electricians and the inspectors, and what that actually does for your local community financially. So my big why is changing lives one door at a time. And whether that's a new investor, a buyer, an agent, whatever, it's really just kind of giving back to my real estate community.
Yes, yes. And John, what is your reason why?
Pretty much everything everybody else said. One of the cool things for me is being entrepreneurial, and being able to build your business. And then the other thing, I really lead with property insurance. I don't do commercial insurance or health insurance or life insurance or, all that kind of stuff. I really stick with property insurance. I'm kind of a razor blade, not a Swiss Army knife, because I've always enjoyed that. And it's really cool when you've got a toughie and you find a solution and they can get an insurance policy and they can close and now they own the dirt, whether they're going to live there or whether they're going to rent it out to cash flow. Like Lauren was saying, they should try and have an opportunity to help a family change their economic cycle for generations, and I just think that's really cool.
Yes,
So.
yes. Changing generations, leading with heart, being heartfelt leaders. And so just seeing who's still on. If you're on out there, please comment. Thank you guys for coming tonight, to this question and answer. Thank you to all of my guests. You all are so amazing. Thank you for contributing your time tonight. I appreciate that, from the bottom of my heart. I really do. Thank you to those who submitted live questions, tuned in, shared this out. Thank you to the young sharks. Carlos is the CEO, and I truly appreciate an opportunity to be on this YouTube platform. Hey, to all the young sharks out there who are listening, if you desire to learn more about the organization, they're just a Google away. A young, youthful organization full of business owners, entrepreneurs between the age of 18 and 40 who are making things happen. They're really doing some amazing things in Jacksonville, in Tampa, and Orlando. Truly a growing, thriving organization of young individuals who are about their business. I really love what you're doing, Carlos. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here on the platform. All right, want to see who's still on. I think Sir Monty is on. So, Sir Monty, you will get dinner. You had
All
to be on
right.
at 7 in order to get dinner. So, Sir Monty, we'll give Sir Monty an air clap so we can avoid the noise. You guys are so cute.
I'm taking care of all the background noise tonight with my
Alexander,
house.
you were about to do the air pump. I said, Alexander, you were about to just a little bit. All right. Thank you
I was
guys.
doing
Sir Monty, thank you so much for your question. Thank you guys. Please come again on Mondays from 6 to 7, you guys. We are live. Please come again on next Monday. We have some amazing individuals who are going to be on as well. I believe we have Ted for next week. If anyone knows him from the TED show, Ted Bogart,
Oh God,
truly an amazing
yes.
man. Yeah. So that's going to be a great
Fabulous
show.
guest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got a couple of other amazing people coming on next week as well. So stay tuned in, you guys. We really got some great things coming to my guests that are on. Stay right there as